Hello and a very warm welcome to the Metis IAS. Today is the second lecture of our Modern Indian History series. In the previous lecture, we had discussed the Portuguese, their arrival, their significance, their decline in India. Today, we will see about the other European powers such as Dutch, Danes, English and the French. If you have not seen the previous video already, just go in the description and find the link of the previous video and see that. So without further delay, let us go on the screen. So basically, as you can see in this slide, while Portuguese made a lot of money in India during the 16th century, other European powers were also watching the same very closely. And they were also thinking the ways in which they can also establish their powers in India. So the traders in each of these nations were seeing this lucrative trade, and they were making trade unions, they were making trade guilds. Unions will be an incorrect word. They were making trade guilds and so on, so as to trade with India. So as you can see, Dutch, Danes, English, French, all of them came to India one by one. So we will see that in our today's slides. So we will begin with the Dutch now. The Dutch East India Company was established in 1602, and they were given the extensive rights to trade, make wars and negotiate by their nation. There are many other facts also in this regard, but in these slides I will only tell you the facts which are most important for you to know. Of course, you can refer for the detailed facts in the textbooks and the others reading material provided by the Metis IAS only. So that the important settlement of the Dutch factory was in Masulipatam in 1605. Masulipatam is a very important port in the Andhra Pradesh, and there is a whole map of all the different European settlements in India in next slides. So I'll show you as well. So basically, they established a factory in Masulipatam in 1605. Then they captured Nagapattinam from the Portuguese, which became a threat to the Portuguese on the east coast because Nagapattinam was their major trading center. So as you can see, no other European power had come to India before the Dutch, of course after Portuguese. So naturally, all the threat that Portuguese faced was from the Dutch. Dutch could only harm the Portuguese and no other European power till now. So on the west coast, important trading centers of the Dutch were Surat, Bharuch, Khambat and Ahmedabad. In the South India, Cochin, Karaikal, Nagapattinam, Bimlipatnam. So you have to remember these ports from the point of view of not only whether which port belonged to Dutch or which belonged to Portuguese or English, but also from the point of view of the maps. Because in mapping questions, such things are asked, and sometimes you are asked to place these things from south to north or north to south or east to west and so on. So similarly, in the not only on the ports, but also as you will see in the central and East India hinterlands areas such as Agra, Patna, etc. were also their trading colonies. So in 1658, they further harmed the Portuguese interests by capturing Ceylon, which is modern day Sri Lanka, from the Portuguese. The major trading commodities that the Dutch dealt in were indigo, raw silk, cotton textile, opium and saltpeter. So this is majorly about Dutch. About Dutch and Danes, we do not have to remember their officers and the further details as we have to do in the Portuguese, English and French, because these two powers were comparatively smaller. So they did not really affect the Indian history in a major way. They were just a little passerbys. And so now we will come to the decline of the Dutch. The number one reason behind the decline of the Dutch is the fact that the major interest of the Dutch was in Indonesia, not in India. And that remained so till the 1945 perhaps, when the Indonesia gained independence. So spices trade and other important trades, Dutch were mainly doing that trade from the Indonesia only. So their attention to India was not that much. Then they were not able to compete with the British and the French. In fact, what happened, they made a settlement with the British as well with time. In 1623, a battle was fought in Indonesia, very famous battle known as Battle of Amboina, in which the Dutch collided with the English and some people were killed on the both sides. And the hostilities continued until in 1667, when the Dutch and the British made peace with each other, and they decided that the British will take the Indian trade and the Dutch will trade the Indonesian trade, and both will not interfere with one another. So this was a turning point for the Dutch in India. After that, there were some occasions when the Dutch tried to meddle in the Indian affairs. One is this famous Battle of Colonial. You have to remember this battle from the point of view of the prelims exam. And even more important is the Battle of Hooghly, also known as Battle of Pedara. It happened in 1759 when the Dutch fought in the side of the Nawab of Bengal against the British. So we will cover more details of this battle in the coming lectures after Battle of Plassey. But right now you have to just remember this little fact that this was the Battle of Pedara in 1759, when Dutch once again and for the last time fought against the British in India. So they were defeated. Although it were the English actually who came after the Dutch, not the Danes. I'm sure you are clear about the difference between the Dutch and the Danes. Dutch were basically the people from the Netherlands and the Danes were the people from the Denmark. So both are different countries. So this is the difference. It is sometimes confusing. You can remember it in this manner. There is a Dutch, T in Dutch, and there is a T in Netherlands. So there is no T in Denmark. So that goes better with the Danes. So this the affairs of the Danes in India were even more brief than the Dutch. Danish East India Company that established trading outposts in 1620 in India. Their headquarters was Tranquebar near Tanjore. So this is a very important fact actually, because this Tanjore and Tranquebar is only associated with the Danes and with no other major power. So you have to remember this fact very well. So they did not actually do much commercially in India. And it is always said that their commercial trades or interests did not really flourish in India. But one thing that definitely flourished was the missionary activities that they did. So as I have mentioned in the slide, in 1755, they founded a colony called Frederick Nagar near Serampur in Bengal. And there were a lot of the Christian missionaries that were brought by the Danes there. So they established the Serampur Mission Press in 1799 and their missionary activities continued. And they published, printed and distributed a lot of Christian literature and helped in the spread of Christianity in India. Not only spread of Christianity, but also the spread of the Christian ideas in India. However, as it is mentioned here, failed as a commercial venture, and they ultimately had to sold all their outposts, including this Serampur, to the British in 1845, and they left India. So this is all that you have to remember about the days. One is their missionary activities. Second is the place called Tranquebar near Tanjore. That's it. There is nothing much about. Now coming to the most important power, not most important during the 17th century actually, but as we will see, they became the most important during the 18th century and onwards. So basically, East India Company was established in 1600. It received a charter from the Queen Elizabeth, who permitted them and gave them a total monopoly to trade in the East, particularly with the India. So William Hawkins reached Surat in 1608 in a ship known as Hector. So it was William Hawkins who came to represent the British in India for the first time. In 1609, Captain Hawkins came to the court of Mughal Emperor Jahangir. He impressed Mughal Emperor as well with his manners, with his polite talk, and with the military and the naval power that the British had. So he requested for permission to establish a factory. factory was not a manufacturing company at that point of time. It was merely a trading venture. So he wanted to establish on the behalf of the East India Company a factory in Surat. But actually Portuguese were really strong in the Mughal court at that point of time. So they played the court politics and prevented the East India Company from securing this permission. So what happened is, from this event, hostilities between the British and the Portuguese started. And these hostilities culminated in 1612 in the Battle of Swally. Very important battle, can be asked in the exam, you have to remember it. So this Battle of Swally was fought between the British and the Portuguese near Surat in 1612, and British won this battle. So since British won this battle, they were able to persuade the emperor now in permitting them to establish a factory. So in 1613, Jahangir issued the Farman which permitted the East India Company to establish its trading post factory at Surat. So first British factory was established in Surat. So basically then the things continued to progress, as we will see in these slides. In 1615, Sir Thomas Roe reached the Mughal court, and he succeeded in getting an imperial farman, trade and establish factories in all parts of the Mughal Empire. So extensive number of factories were established after this farman of 1615 was received from Jahangir. So these are the other things. British faced the competition from the Portuguese and Dutch. As I have already discussed, the Portuguese were well established in India during the 16th century, and Dutch had established themselves before the British in the early 17th century. So after that, another farman was given to the British by the Sultan of Golconda in 1632. So this farman, many ports of the Deccan region and other hinterlands were opened to the British now. Then they established a Fort St. George in Madras, 1639. Very important question this is. Fort St. George of the British was in Madras. St. William's was in Calcutta. You have to remember this. So after they established a port in Madras, then the King Charles II of British was married to a Portuguese princess. And in Dori, they received the port of Bombay from the Portuguese in 1662. So of course then British developed this port and made it their headquarters of the Western India in 1687. And Bombay later became an important British presidency as fact. So first Madras, then Bombay, and now we will come to Bengal. In 1698, we are going in a chronological manner, as you will be not saying. So the British succeeded in getting the permission to buy the zamindari of three villages, Sutanati, Gobindpur and Kalikata. So around these three villages only, the city of Calcutta was founded by the British. And they established the Fort Williams there in 1700. So this Fort Williams is a very historic place. It became the center of the 1756, the event of the Black Hole. And we will discuss in the later times as well. Even in learning Indian culture, the British officers who later came to India, all of them were first learned about India in the Fort Williams. Then they proceeded to work in the different parts of India. We will come to that as well. So, and now coming to the Magna Carta for the country. The biggest thing that happened for the British was this farman that they received from the Mughal Emperor Farrukh Siyar in 1770. By this farman, most of the duties from the British were abolished or removed. A fixed payment was sought by the emperor from the British directly, and they were allowed to trade extensively in the India. Dastaks, various different levies, duties, all of them were abolished. So it really gave a boost to the British East India Company and harmed the interests of its other competitors, such as the French. So we will come to that part later. But you have to remember this fact very, very carefully. The Magna Carta for the British was the imperial Farman of the Farooq Siyar received in 1770. So basically there were a lot of the factories of the British. So it is like not, I think, very fruitful for me to tell you each of the factory. You should just see this map and try to remember these factories. Questions have been asked in past. Be very, very careful. As you can see, Pulikat is there, Karaikal is there, Nagapattinam is there, Mahe, Kannanur, Calicut, Goa, Bombay, all of it. So some of it is the French trading outpost, some of it are the British outpost. Marks are there, the red dot is for the European settlement and this blue flag is for the French settlement. So just get very thorough with this map. It is indispensable for your whole of the history preparation. It is indispensable. Become very thorough with this map. I'll briefly tell you about the important British outposts. Masulipattnam is there. You can see Pulikat is there. Pondicherry was a French outpost as seen in this blue flag. Nagapattinam was again important British outpost. Then we will see that this Calicut later came under British. Then this you can see Bombay, but Surat, etc. So just become very thorough with this map. So now let us come to the French. French East India Company was established in 1664 during the reign of Louis XIV. French were basically the last word to come to India. The reason were domestic, their internal politics. We will come to that in the next lecture. So right now we will have to remember this another fact. Portuguese were basically the first word to come to India. Portuguese were also the last word to leave India when they left India in 1961 when Operation Vijay was run in Goa and Goa was annexed by the Indian states. French were the last one to come to India. If a question is asked about chronology, Portuguese first one to come to India, French last to come to India. Between these, first the Dutch came after Portuguese, then the English came, then the Danes came, then the French came. So you have to remember this chronology, very, very careful. So the French company also established its first factory in 1668 in Surat, or second factory in Masulipattnam. So as you are seeing this pattern, I wanted to bring this to your notice. All the powers, be it British, Portuguese, Dutch and the French, all of them established their factories in Surat and Masulipattnam. So you can understand the importance of these trading centers from this fact only. So naturally you have to remember Surat, its location, its importance, and other ports south and north of the Surat. Question can be asked. Similarly about Masulipattnam. You should be aware that exactly where it is located, which lake or natural feature is near to it, which ports are in its north, which ports are in its south, which state is that in which Masulipattnam falls, and so on. So be very careful. So then they obtained permission from the Mughal Subedar Shaista Khan and they did set up a township at Chandarnagar near Calcutta. Chandarnagar became a very important base for the French in India. And it remained their important base till very late. Then they founded Pondicherry in 1674 and in 1701 it was made their capital, Pondicherry. And as you may be aware, they held on to Pondicherry till 1954. It was only in 1954 that the Pondicherry was annexed by India and the French settlement was removed from there. So naturally, before the French came, Puducherry or Pondicherry as it was called, was an important center of the Dutch as well. So there were occasional trifles with the Dutch in the Pondicherry, and there were occasions when the Dutch won over some little war from the French and they took the control of Pondicherry for some time and then the French won it back and so on. So there were other important French outposts as well. And these you must remember in the map because they are located in the different states and like Mahe, Karaikal, Qasim Bazar, Baraso. So just see these locations in the map and try to remember them very, very carefully. So the next natural and logical part of our lecture would be the Anglo-French rivalry. because we have seen the decline of the Dutch, Danes and the Portugal. We have seen that. We have not seen the decline of British because that never happened. That will happen in 1947. We will see that. Now we will have to see the decline of French. And before we see the decline of French, so there will be the whole chain of the wars and a very bitter rivalry with the British. Three wars were fought between the British and the French. We will see that in the next lecture. So today, before we end our lecture, just this meme is for your fun. Ultimately, British became the victorious entity and victorious power. And you will see other nations turned out to be really small in front of the British power. Now I will bring two PYQs to you that have been asked from these topics in past. See this question. In the first quarter of 17th century, in which of the following were the factories of British East India Company located? So as you can see, I was telling you again and again, these factories are very important. You must remember them. So just you will be able to do this question very easily. So the second question, with reference to the Indian history, consider the following statements. Statement number 1, the Dutch established their factories, warehouses on the east coast on lands granted to them by Gajapati rulers. So this fact, this information can be found. The second statement, Alfonso de Albuquerque captured Goa from the Bijapur Sultanate. This statement we have already discussed in the previous lecture. This statement is true. Then the third one, the English East India Company established a factory at Madras on a plot of land leased from a representative of the Vijayanagara Empire. Again, try to find the information of this fact. This is homework for you. If you feel any doubt, feel free to ask in the comment section and we will tell you about the facts. But the thing is, as we have seen in both questions, important trading centers and their establishment is very important for you to know. Some of it I have been able to discuss in this lecture, but of course, you will have to study a lot more than mere this lecture. So please refer to our Metis IAS study material for your in-depth and 360-degree holistic knowledge of this whole topic. With this, I say goodbye from you. We'll meet you in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned. If you like our initiative, please do like, subscribe our channel and share it with other aspirants as well. Thank you.